Welcome to the Mike Weatherford Show. I'm Mike Weatherford. Mike Weatherford's never looked this good or this young. Boy, Miss Dana is going to be excited about this. I think the first thing I'll do is check my bank accounts and then give Jessica a raise, and I don't know what else. I probably will call Josh Fry and get him to get a restraining order because that bug-eyed Billy Busey's up to something. He's all the time up there to the shop. I'm not really too sure he's up to something. But anyway, we got Mike on special assignment today, and look who's the only person that would say yes and come on here and hang out with me, Tater Hayes.
Well, I'm not Billy Busey, that's for sure.
Yeah, you ain't got very big shoes to fill. I mean, with them Fred Flintstone feet you got, you can probably do that pretty easy. I got the big shoes to fill over here.
You know what I feel like? I kind of feel like Jay Leno when he used to fill in for Johnny Carson. It's kind of what I feel like.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, sometimes we'll have to do that. Now we got Mike on special assignment. There's no telling where else he might be.
He looks better on special assignment, too. Without a doubt.
Well, thank you. Well, tonight we have a special guest that's going to come in and talk to us about the school systems. We have the superintendent, director of the Henry County School System, Miss Leah Watkins. Come on in here, Miss Leah, or I guess I should say doctor.
Appreciate you having me today.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Doing great. First day of school. It was a good one. Everybody's home, and I think we had a productive day.
Well, that's good. So how'd your day go at school today, you think?
It was great. So nice to have the kids back in person, and just it's amazing after summer break how excited they are to be at school and just how focused they are. So it was a good day.
Well, that's good.
Well, I've got a question for you right off the bat.
Okay.
When I had to do my little show with Mike, and the last thing he asked me was how I got the name Tater. So my question to you is, how'd you get the name Doctor?
Well, let's just say I had to spend a whole lot of money at Union University. How's that? So, I had the opportunity to get my undergraduate work finished at UT Martin, and then had the privilege back when all of the programs were in person. Got to go to Union University, and I drove 3 days a week for about 3 years to get to Union and take those courses that got that doctor in front of my name. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Good. Well,
I know you're proud of that.
You know what my husband said afterwards? I got a coffee cup with my diploma, and he said that's the most expensive coffee cup we've ever had.
No doubt.
So needless to say, it's in a special place.
Well, I've got a sore on my arm over here. Maybe you could look at.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'll do that. I'm not that kind of doctor. You know, my son told me that right out of the gate. He said, "Mom, you're not a real doctor because you can't prescribe medicine." I said, "You're right, buddy. I'm not."
Well, I tell you what's cool about you, Dr. Watkins, is you were born and raised right here in Henry County, in the Buchanan area. You grew up down at the lake, and
You a wildcat, I guess?
I was a Buchanan Wildcat, and will always be a Buchanan Wildcat.
So
right.
You graduated from Henry County High School. You've been married 24 years and have 2 children. One is 20 and one is 16.
That's right.
And you have been an educator all your life, which is awesome.
I am.
I respect y'all for the job you do, because I know that most of the time countrywide, educators are probably some of the lowest paid people in the food chain, yet they're educating all the doctors and lawyers. And
That's right.
so I commend you
Well, I appreciate
on
that.
your job. Another little cool fact is about you is your grandparents owned Rice's store down there.
That's right.
On 79. And if I had the money back that I spent on bologna sandwiches down there, I could put plastic grass in my front yard. But yeah, I loved your grandparents, and they were good people, and yeah, I miss the old wooden floor stores and the bologna and the crackers and the fellowship that you had, and the little 6-ounce Coca-Colas and stuff. Yeah,
That's right.
But
They
that
probably
was
had
cool.
a coal heater in there too, didn't a bunch of old people in there
I don't
sitting
really
around.
remember about that. I can't remember what they heated with, but I know I've spent a lot of days in there eating lunch and snacks in there, and it was cool.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, it ain't no doubt that one of the reasons that when Mike asked me to do this, he asked me who I wanted to interview, and I thought, who better than Dr. Watkins? Because, you know, everybody knows that we might not agree on things sometimes, but we still buddies.
That's right.
And I thought you would be, you're awesome. I respect what you do. I respect who you've grown up to and become, and it's awesome. So I'm honored to get to sit across the table from you. So I guess we'll get kind of started here. I've been hearing on the news where they're talking about masking back up in schools.
That's right.
So what is your take on that?
Well, you know, the masking dialogue, certainly we know folks are kind of over COVID. We know that people, it's been a hard year and a half, certainly since COVID came out, and the discussion around masking certainly has some some folks who are for it and some folks who are against it. So right now, as a school system, now obviously depending on air date and all of that stuff, as of right now, we're encouraging masks because that's the guidance the CDC and the Department of Health has given us.
So you're actually following the science. What's the science say about wearing masks? Does it cut off the oxygen, or what exactly is that doing?
Well, so there's a lot of discussions, and we required masks all last year. Mm-hmm. And our students and staff members did a great job. Parents did a great job with having those masks in place. So, your physicians will tell you that it doesn't impact like respiration or anything like that by having a mask on. What they have told us is that it does help prevent the spread of COVID. Now, I'm not a medical doctor, as we discussed at the beginning of this show, so I don't really want to weigh in as far as, whether or not that the science behind that's not my business. My business is I want to keep as many kids safe as I can possibly keep, and I also want to keep schools open because that is important to our county and our state.
So you said y'all already talking about mask requirements and stuff like that. What else to go along with that?
So
social distancing too?
Yeah.
I mean, 6 foot or?
Yep. That's a great question, Billy. So last year we had a very strict protocols in place around masking and spacing, 6 feet, and all of those things. We even reduced some of the activities that kids normally would do just to prevent the spread. So obviously we went through the summer and things were looking good, and here we are at the start of school, and what has COVID done? And we know the cases are definitely on the rise here. So we have multiple procedures in place, and some of them extend from just you take kind of how we do lunches, for instance. So in the past, sometimes students would serve themselves. So that's not what we're doing this year. So our staff members in the cafeteria are actually plating the foods for the kids, which is a good safety hazard. I mean, a good safety benefit. Additionally, we're doing pre-boxed salads and things like that so that students aren't spending a lot of time hovering around the food or touching it and things like that. So we're doing some things like that. We're also encouraging socially distanced spaces. So definitely when we're doing classroom activities, we're getting as much space between our desks as we can get. We're also, we're really focused on not compromising learning. Our kids need interaction. They need to be close together, and some of those things, those partner work and some small group work.
They're actually kind of losing some of their social skills by what's going on with the COVID too, and also the immune system. Do you know how you build up your immune system? Do y'all kind of talk about that, or is it just strictly mask and distance? What are y'all?
So we also use quite a bit of hand sanitizer, by the way. So honestly, Billy, that conversation around, what is the science behind building immune system, that's kind of not our business. Our business is to adhere to the safety guidelines that allow us to stay open. So now I'm a firm believer that dirt's a good thing for a kid, and
I'm just thinking about going back to biology, what they talk about, so
that's
I mean
right.
that's part of the science. So
it is.
What they're saying in biology about the immune system.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't know. If y'all stray away from that and strictly go to the medical.
No,
it sounds like it's caused a lot of work for y'all.
It has been an unbelievable amount of work. And I'll tell you, the contact tracing piece, I've joked a little bit about coordinated school health. Coordinated school health is a program that we have that's grant funded from the state of Tennessee. And it actually has been very focused on kind of the whole child perspective. Well, my team in coordinated school health all last year, pretty much our nurses and our director, spent a majority of their time having to do contact tracing, which was a big lift. But we did it. We have procedures in place, and we'll continue to do that this year as well because, again, that's the guidance that we have been asked to do to keep our kids safe. And I'll just tell you guys what I've told everybody. If I had to stand on my head in the corner of the room to keep our schools open, I'm going to stand in the corner of the room on my head, because we need our kids in school.
So have you required your teachers or your staff to be vaccinated? What is the protocol on that? Is that a requirement, or is that just a suggestion?
That's a great question, Billy. So we actually were able to work with the Henry County Medical Center last year. Just right after Christmas, they offered a partnership with us to be able to offer on-site vaccines. So we totally did that as an optional thing. That was a personal choice for our employees, and we probably had 50% of our employees take advantage of that. Now, some have done it since then. That's not a number that I have access to, but we have not required that, but we've certainly made it available. And part of it is, teachers don't work from they don't work from 8 to 3. So a lot of times people don't know the hours that a teacher works, or even a school staff member. Certainly our bus drivers, they start the morning at 5:30 and sometimes don't get off the bus till 5:30 in the afternoon. So what we did is we brought those vaccines on site. So anybody that wanted them, we put it in a convenient location so that they could take advantage if they chose to. So one of the biggest benefits that we've seen around individuals that have been vaccinated, and I'll be honest, I didn't want to quarantine. I don't want to miss work for 10 to 14 days. In fact, nobody at my house wants me home for 10 to 14 days, frankly. So it's a good thing. So that's part of the reason I did it. And then also just, personal choice. I just didn't want to take the virus to somebody that I cared about, or to be, and again, that was my personal choice. And that's how we've approached it with our staff members as well, and faculty.
I don't even like COVID. I don't
COVID.
like talking about it. It just gets on my nerves.
Oh.
It's caused so much chaos in this country that it's unbelievable.
That's right.
But what I would like to discuss is, like, I am a byproduct of the Henry County school system, and probably not one of the shining byproducts of it. But
you ain't shining.
Look at you, dude. But the way that I was taught school and the way they're teaching school now is completely different. I mean, I go back, I was the last class to have classes in the Tower building, which is now your office.
That's right.
When we didn't have air conditioning and all that. So, but you've got some new programs up here that I don't even know anything about, and I would like to get you to explain some of them to us and tell them how it's benefiting our children in the school system. And one of them is the Employability Counts program.
All right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that. So this actually, Tater, is a kind of a partnership that we're doing with PSSD as well, and then the Industrial Development Board. So this is kind of a brainchild of the group. We know right now the value of the workforce. We know that we need our students to be able to leave us when they leave in 12th grade and go college, career, or workforce, whatever their pathway is, and we want them to be successful, whatever that pathway is. So, there was a big push for a long time around everybody has to go to college, everybody has to go to college. Well, we know that there are other professions that don't necessarily require a college degree. There's TCAT certifications. There's all those different pathways to be successful. So what we did is we came together and we really started talking about, okay, what does it take to be successful as an employee? What does it take to be successful post-high school? So we came up with several different attributes, and strategically, we're going to intentionally teach those attributes. So I have to give a shout out to a couple of folks in the system, actually. We have a kind of a lead STEAM teacher, and that's Leanne Durham, and then Carrie Burns is one of our lead school counselors. And those two ladies have really worked collaboratively with PSSD and collaboratively with our team to develop some curricular resources for our STEM classrooms as well as our counseling to really work these attributes. So when you think about it, and Tater, you got employees, so you know how this works. You need them to be able to communicate, don't you?
Exactly.
Okay, so we need our kids to leave us and be able to communicate. You need them to be able to work as a team, don't you?
Exactly.
Okay, we're working strategically. In fact, the month of August is focused on teamwork. So also, what about perseverance? When the going gets tough, you want them to keep on going, or you want them to take their toys and go home?
Well, I'll tell you how they do now, but hopefully after this program, they won't do that anymore. But, I'm just sitting here listening to you talk about it. this sounds to me like something that could be used in all schools, that could be passed on to other people, like other school systems ought to be able to
So how
take
are you
this
improving communication?
Oh, that's a great conversation. Well, so we built this in the spring. So this is kind of a new thing, and honestly, it was a brainchild from industry, workforce. They said, well, here's what we need from our students who are leaving high school. And so each month we'll do some quotes that we'll share over the intercom. That's part of it. Our high school will be doing some of this during their advisory kind of period and throughout the day. They'll also be doing some just kind of morning announcement type things that really focus on the importance of each of these things. And then we'll be in our STEAM classrooms, there will be specific lessons that require, for example, communication. So where kids are having to say to one another, I need you to do this and I need you to do that. And
I see communication being lost because there's so much texting going on. I mean, it just,
that's right.
I can't stand it because people's got more to say with their thumbs than they do with their mouth.
So sometimes I have to tell people I don't communicate with my thumbs. If you can call me and we'll talk.
Yeah.
But so does this program, does it carry over to the work-based learning program that y'all have? Do they work together? Or?
That's a great question. So actually they go hand in hand. So what we want is for our kids to be able to leave us successful. We want whatever path they go to for them to be successful. So that's one of the things that I talk about with all new employees is we're a stop on the ladder. We're just a stop for a student. So whether they're in third grade or whether they're in fifth grade, yes, the content in that grade level is very important. But ultimately, our goal is to support those students so that when they leave us, they can be successful. And so, it all fits together. Now, work-based learning is kind of an old tool, actually. It's one that's been around for a long time. But we're kind of dusting it off because we know the value of preparing our kids to be able to work, to hold a job, to go to work on time, to show up, to push through when the going gets tough. So we're kind of toe in the water, bringing that tool back out again, and really, again, it's just about helping them be successful when they leave us.
So what are you doing for teamwork? I know that I'm a firm believer in sports helping them out with teamwork. So how do you help out the children who are not in sports to learn about teamwork?
So, I'm going to say a lot of people think of sports when they think of teamwork, but you take those band students, shout out to band kids and band directors, because you will never see a group that works harder than they do as far as ours.
Our band has really stepped up.
It's amazing. So even students who aren't necessarily involved in athletics per se, but they're involved in other extracurriculars, you take our FFA program. Those kids collaborate, they do programs together, they do projects together and all that. So there's a lot of opportunities for kids to engage. So activities that we'll be offering during our counseling lessons and then our STEAM lessons. Now I don't do that anymore, so I don't get to teach those things. But our two lead teachers who have come up with that curriculum have some great plans. Now we'll also have a video that we're going to be sharing, and I think there's a familiar face that's going to be on the video that'll be pretty good talking about teamwork for us. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited about that. But really, it's just going to be messaging, intentionality, talking about it, sharing with those kids, and then they'll have some activities that they do that really reinforce that. But I will say to you, you're exactly right. Kids who belong in organizations have the opportunity to work as a team. And so we really want all of our kids to be involved. That's the key.
That's the thing, because I see a lot of them falling through the cracks, and I really hate that.
Yep. So I'll tell you, and I know you're going to ask me, remind me to come back to this, Tater, at the end when you ask me about goals, okay? Because we can pick that back up too.
Yeah, I got that on there.
All right, good deal.
So both of those programs are local programs. They're not state mandated. They're just something that y'all have done. That's awesome.
That's right.
Maybe some other school systems will watch this program and carry on.
That's right.
But there is one program and I don't even know if it's a state mandated thing, if they're trying to make it, but the critical race theory, I've been hearing about that.
Oh, Lord, here we go.
Is that something that the state's trying to push, or?
Well, that's a good question. So there's a lot of conversation around this right now. So I will tell you, and I've had some folks that have asked me, does Henry County school system teach critical race theory? And what I tell people is we teach standards. We are given specific standards in ELA, which English language arts, mathematics, science and social studies, and then related content areas that we are responsible to teach. I'm going to tell you there's a million standards. I'm being sarcastic. There's not really a million, but there's a lot of standards. Our teachers don't have time to teach things that aren't the standards. Now, interesting enough, today the governor actually did a press release, press conference, and talked a little bit about this topic, and just basically said that in Tennessee he is not endorsing the teaching of critical race theory. So, my goal is to carry out state board
Right.
needs and to initiate the instruction around the standards in the state of Tennessee. And that's what our teachers teach in Henry County.
Well, one more question I have on teaching is, who is Dr. Core? The guy that come up with that core math stuff. Who is that guy?
Common Core?
Yeah, because me and him need to have anyway.
I haven't met him.
Me either, but I sure would like to. Yeah, my kids will bring that stuff home, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, why is that? Why do you have to go
We
through
don't want to get into that.
15 steps?
Don't make me mad,
and
Billy.
then,
I talk
and
about it,
then
I'll
you
get
can
mad.
simply do it and just, why the school system gone to that?
Well, so I'll tell you again, actually the state of Tennessee does not teach Common Core standards anymore. The state of Tennessee... Anymore, that's right. So there was a collaboration between the chief council of school officers back that was
Smart folks got together.
I would say so. I would say they were definitely intelligent folks. They came together and they actually worked with universities and came up with a set of standards. And that was kind of the foundation of the Common Core standards. And then about that time, there were all kinds of incentives monetarily for states to go Common Core. So, but since that process, and I don't remember how long ago that process began, but that process actually has been through multiple iterations of the standard. So we teach Tennessee standards. Now, I'm just going to tell you, there's definitely some things that are from the Common Core standards that transcended into Tennessee standards. But again, we have a responsibility. In fact, I sign annually a compliance report that says that we teach the standards. And so, if anybody doesn't like the standards, the place you go is State Department of Education. That's who makes the standards that are taught in Tennessee. So they've had lots of opportunities too for public comment. So I think anytime the standards change, which has been a lot, by the way, in the last 10 years, and that's hard on teachers, just so you know. When those standards change, it's hard. But they usually ask for public comment that's on the State Department's website.
One of the things that makes me feel a little bit more comfortable, you being from Buckhannon, so apparently you was raised on black-eyed peas and cornbread. So I'm hoping that when you see stuff come down the line that you're like, you can make adjustments.
You want to know a funny story, Billy? So,
I'm all about fun.
All right. So a few years ago, and by the way, I'm glad you said Buckhannon and not Buchanan because you don't go there. But funny story is, several years ago, the state of Tennessee took cursive writing out of the standards. And so at the time, I was still supervisor of instruction. And so we just said, no. We're just going to keep on teaching it because kids need to know how to write in cursive and they need to know how to read.
How many people can't sign their own name?
I know. But the funny thing is, there were a few years where those standards were pulled out. You weren't supposed to teach cursive writing per the state.
Why?
We continued. I know. We continued to do it.
Did you ask that?
No. We just kept on doing it. We just kept on doing it. So we taught the cursive writing, and then guess what came back? Cursive writing is back, and you're supposed to teach it. So, well, now we can't all write legibly just because we know cursive writing. I can relate, but
I write like a doctor.
Yeah, there you go. But it was important, and so there are things like that where we have to say, you know what, kids need this, and so we just kind of have to focus on that.
You pay much attention to the publishers of y'all's books and textbooks? Because I'm kind of interested. What is it, Peterson?
Dr. Core, man.
So
I can tell you how the adoption works, how our textbook adoption works. So really, the state of Tennessee now gives us a very narrow window of textbooks that we can adopt. So they'll give us a list of, you can choose from this, or this per grade level. And that's all we can do as far as an adoption goes. So again, much of that decision, there is some local decision as far as which one within this very narrow scope.
Now, do all of our schools, for example, like you have Henry, you got Harrelson, all the county schools, do that all fall under one umbrella, or does each little school kind of like get this textbook, that school gets this textbook, or does it all just fall under one county?
Okay. So when you talk about textbooks, there's an official adoption. So we are required by the state, whatever the adoption year is, we have to adopt a textbook for that material. So like, let's say next year is math, which it's not, by the way, but let's say next year's math, then every school district in the state of Tennessee has to adopt off the list a math textbook. So a system adopts the textbook for all of the schools involved in that grade level. So they would have the same adoption. Now, there's a lot of supplemental resources, and I know Tater can relate to this because he's got some educators in his family. They have a lot of supplemental resources they use because our teachers are constantly trying to find a way, how do I meet this child's needs? How do I make sure this child knows this content? And so, you've got a textbook adoption, but not every course even uses a textbook. You think about early literacy and how you teach a child to read, and, very little of that is based on a textbook per se. A lot of that is based upon leveled readers or just supplemental materials that are brought in to meet the child's needs.
I say that is because I've noticed in different parts of the state, I've seen how, for history books, example, they want to sugarcoat some of the stuff, and you can see how they twist and turn to try to meet their agenda.
Sure.
And that, I have an issue with that.
So my question about history books is, when I was in school, the history books were about that thick. Heaviest thing there was. So now that I've been out of school for a little bit, are they this thick now? Because there's been a lot of history since I've been in school, so I'm thinking those jokers must weigh 15 or 20 pounds by now.
Interesting enough, a lot of that stuff's online now, so really they're about an inch thick now because you can pop that Chromebook open and you've got everything online. So you still have your traditional textbooks in some courses, but most textbook vendors now, of course, textbooks are big business. You're talking lots of money, and they're a whole lot more expensive than they used to be, by the way.
That was a big, I remember in college when you had to pay for them jokers yourself. A big expense.
Oh, it's huge. So
my daughter had that for cosmetology.
Dude, I could go back and resell them.
Yes.
Resell them back to the library over there and have a big party.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're very expensive, and that is big business. Most of the textbook companies now offer, if they offer a consumable like a workbook or something like that, they'll have all these supplemental resources like, test packets and all these things. They'll have a textbook typically, and then a lot of times they'll have an online component as well. So I think that might explain why the history book hadn't gotten fatter. There's a whole bunch of other places to find the content, though there are some really fat history books, by the way. Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I was driving by the high school the other day, and I noticed all kind of new buildings over there, and new looks and new things that didn't look like it did when I was over there before, when I walked out that door. So can you tell us a little bit about what all's going on and why we're...
I can. So it's been pretty exciting, actually. We have concluded the high school building program, actually, around what you'll see as that front entrance, and I think that's what you're referring to, Tater, that you really saw a big difference.
It really looks a lot different.
It does. So what we've been able to do there is there's a safety upgrade for sure, just making sure that's a good, safe entrance for our students and staff members. But you'll also see that whole front entryway where all the additions are added right there under the awning where it's kind of shaded. That's actually the guided suite now. So what we found is that a lot of our parents need to speak to our school counselors, because you're talking about, applying for scholarships and applying for colleges and doing all these things, looking at transcripts and GPAs and all that stuff. So having a spot for the counselors that was very accessible to the public is a really good thing. And then also having a spot, our SRO, though he doesn't stay in the office, he's everywhere. He's vigilant. He's all over the building, but he does does have a landing space right up front so that if he needs to view video or do something like that, he has a space in the front. So we also, which was honestly was perfect, it wasn't because of COVID, obviously, but our nurse now has a really good space with multiple bays. The kids can kind of have a private space in, like when they're sick and things like that.
Yeah,
so I'm
sure you don't have just one sick at a time. So
well, you think
with
about
that many
high
children.
school. No, it's nearly 1,000 students, and so definitely you need multiple sick bays in there. But it's a very private space, kind of off the counselor's office, that's accessible right there. And then you'll also see, some upgrades right there in the front office. All new flooring that goes in front of between the guidance suite and then also to the administrative offices, and then into the cafeteria. So our cafeteria, of course, it's changed a whole lot since we were at Henry County High School.
I can imagine.
But it's really got a much more upgraded flooring and the lighting in there and the space. Got some new tables in there and looks really good. And of course, a project that I've not been satisfied with is we had some C-wing bathrooms right there off the cafeteria that honestly, we just couldn't get them looking like we needed to. That was part of the project. So actually, that is still going on, and it's about the third redo on that one. So, but we're getting there. So we want it to look good for our kids and our community, certainly when they come in our building, and we want it to be functional.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Really glad to hear that. But now then, we got to take a break because I just look cheap. Mike's going to have to pay for me, so we're going to have to go to a commercial break right now, and we'll be right back.
This presentation of the Mike Weatherford Show is being brought to you by
Paris Power Sports, a bad boy and skag mower dealer and service center that is the area's leading power sports company since 2016. Mow with an attitude and power on.
Napa Auto and Truck Parts. With over 95 years of experience, you can trust the Napa know-how.
Take Me Back Cafe. Delicious home-cooked family-style meals in a nostalgic, warm, and inviting atmosphere. Take Me Back Cafe. Great for the entire family.
And the attorneys at Hawley & McAdams, who with over 90 years of combined experience, pride themselves in competent, thorough representation, utilizing their vast experience in a broad array of practice areas. Voted favorite law firm in the 14th Annual Reader's Choice Award, Hawley & McAdams are proud and honored to serve you.
Welcome back to the Mike Weatherford Show. I'm Mike Weatherford. No, I'm not, but My special guest right here is
Ed McMahon.
Ed, how you doing, Eddie? And we're learning a little bit about the school system with Dr.
She earned that
Yeah,
title,
she
brother.
did. Oh, yeah, she got a coffee mug and all, didn't you?
That's right. Expensive coffee mug.
What did that cost you? About $40,000?
I still twitch a little bit when I think about the cost of that. I don't even want to go there.
Well,
we was discussing the buildings and the new buildings, the nurses facility and everything like that, the new cafeteria or the additions to the cafeteria. What else did you like to add to that?
Absolutely. So anybody that has been to a Henry County High School basketball game can appreciate the fact, Tater, when we were there was no air conditioning in there. No. So it is the most enjoyable experience now. You've got great air conditioning, brand new flooring. It looks amazing in there. So it's really a good facility.
Our
really
gym
nice.
has always looked superb compared to any other gym anywhere that a high school gym that I've ever been to.
Oh, it's amazing. And then even the locker rooms have been upgraded. So I think back about my Henry County High School days, PE and having to go in those locker rooms, and it just so much better, such a better space for our kids. So it's really nice. There's probably some other things too that I'm thinking, okay, the field house, that was another upgrade. So they extended the ends of the field house so that there was more room for the visitors' locker room and our away teams to be able to come in and enhance the space on the inside for our players as well. So actually, I don't know the dimensions, but if you'll look, the original field house was that center area, and then there was an expansion on both wings. So really gave those kids more space, and of course you'll see some sidewalk concrete work and all that goes along there too.
So what's that big building
Oh, that's
the big building.
Yeah, so there's actually 2 more buildings that were added. So what you'll see there is a state-of-the-art band building. So that large building that has kind of the elevated, it's fabulous. Yeah, it's a great space. So has individual practice rooms in there, has storage areas, has the neatest thing. So Kyle Graves, our band director, actually helped with some of the design inside as far as the flooring goes. So it actually is kind of marked off the way that they would march, so they can simulate marching and have some practice space in there that kind of sits on, kind of measures the same way that it does when they space on the field or when they perform. So great building, really good sound, good acoustics. It has the acoustic panels on the side, very good natural light that comes in there. It's just really, it's a great space.
We're very. Mr. Graves is a fantastic guy. Man, he is a fantastic person.
Yes.
And
yes.
And we are very fortunate to have the band that we have here, and the show that they put on is phenomenal.
It is.
And I mean, because I'm a big Pride of the Southland type, and look, man, they get right in there with it. They can show out. They sure can. And
COVID's been hard, obviously how you do band and how you practice band, and even recruitment for band has been a challenge. But our facility is top notch. And then we also there's a smaller building back kind of towards the baseball field that you'll see that actually provides some changing areas for each of our spring sports. It's not just spring, but fall and spring. So what you'll have down there is baseball changing facility, softball, soccer facility for the students to go down there and change instead of having to go up and go back to the building or whatever they did before, and some coaches' offices too.
So we have some improvement with the building and stuff like that. What else have you done, like say for computers, or we got so much virtual learning? Have we touched on that a little bit?
So Billy, I'm going to tell you first off, I can't claim all of those improvements. Those were actually blessed by the county commission for sure, and then that work started back, I think, even in Sam Miles' day.
Director / superintendent.
That's right. But I also want to give credit to the people that did the work prior to, and so this process of these improvements at the high school is a taxpayer funded gift to the county and gift to the school system to make that program, all of those programs, better. And so, it was their contribution that funded it, and I don't ever want to forget that. I think that's important. And then our county commissioner and our board, and then really the vision started back as early as Sam Miles, I think, with the improvements at the high school. So that's a great thing for sure. So you said, what else? Ask me that question again, Billy.
Okay, what else have we touched on besides the building, like computers, virtual reality, or virtual education, or whatever it is that we have to do now?
So with part of our ESSER funds that we've received, so ESSER funds are those federal relief funds that school systems were able to receive. We have been able to provide a lot of Chromebooks. So we really, Chromebooks being an equivalent of a laptop, obviously, they just work off of Google platform and all of that. And so we've been able to do a lot with that, a lot of projectors in our classroom, a lot of pull down screens or interactive flat panel TVs and things like that. Just tools to help our teachers be that much more effective. And also, obviously, last year having to go to kind of an alternating schedule, and even the year before having to just close at the governor's requirement, I think it was around March the 15th, having those devices handy and able to be used was a great benefit.
So if it comes up again, are we going to be ready for in case something happened like the pandemic?
That's right. So it's interesting. 2 years ago, when COVID first hit, the governor actually closed schools. So he said school is over for the year. My Henry County school system folks continue to teach even though the kids were not in the building. So they continue to provide virtual lessons. They continue to try to keep the kids growing. And I think that was just, that's attributable to the kind of team we have and the dedicated educators that we have. So that was kind of that first year of COVID. Now last year, each school district in the state had to come up with what was called a continuous learning plan. That continuous learning plan was basically in the event that COVID cases were on the rise, how would you continue education and learning? And so we had a plan that allowed for that alternating schedule. We also embedded Google Classroom and Google Tools so that our kids, if we had to close on very short notice, had a way to communicate with their teachers. We also have some other programs like Remind and Band that we use so that we can get information to parents and continue teaching, continue learning, even if we have to close. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm very hopeful this year. Our kids need to be in school, and I don't want us to have to close. So I'm hopeful we don't have to do that again. But yes, we have the tools and the skills necessary to continue instruction.
Or just in case.
Just in case, but there is nothing like being in the classroom with one of our masters, and those are our master teachers.
That's where my kids need to be.
That's where
they don't need to be at my house.
I'm telling you, that's where my kids needed to be. So I'm with you.
Well,
that's a deep one.
Those are Chromebooks, so that falls under the Android thing, doesn't it? Or is that like...
Oh, now, you know, that doctor that I have has nothing to do with technology.
Well, no, I was just wondering. I think that's pretty cool, being people are all the time sending me stuff saying, you don't swap over to iPhone, you're Android.
That's right.
Well, look at there, man. Y'all can use Chromebooks. That's cool.
Oh, man, they are great to manage, and there's all kinds of suites. There's Google for Education that has all, you know, we have Google Meet, and so when we were, you know, teaching virtually, a lot of our teachers use Zoom, but a lot of them used Meet as well, and they came up with all kinds of creative ways as well. But Google is the platform that we utilize as a district for our internet, and I mean, not for our internet, but for our email and for different platforms.
So let's go back to where you was talking about the virtual when the pandemic.
Sure.
How I've spoke with a few parents where there was issues about attendance. How do we make sure that there's not any type of mistake? Because there was a lot of issues with that.
Yeah. I wish that I could tell you that there was a, you know, panacea to resolve that, but unfortunately, that whole, and of course this is probably why the state board ruled that you can't do virtual this year except through a virtual school. So last year we had the flexibility to be able to offer that dual instruction, so we could give our parents a choice. We could say whichever one makes you feel comfortable, whichever works best for your family, that type of situation, because we knew we had families who, you know, there were folks at home that were maybe immunocompromised or different situations like that. But the state board ruled this summer that we could not offer, now not just Henry County obviously, but the whole state of Tennessee, you could not offer that dual instruction piece. So what they've said is basically it's in person, or if you have a virtual school, you can offer in the virtual component through the virtual school, which we actually started a virtual school at the beginning of last year prior to the school year beginning. So because we know that some of our parents want an alternative choice, and so a non-traditional pathway for their students. And so we're set up for that. We're prepared if we have families that need a virtual option. The thing that we have to remember though is transitioning schools is hard on kids. And so you want to minimize transitions, and it happens. My kids have been through transitions. Kids that go through transitions on occasion, and that's a fine thing, but you definitely want to minimize those. So what we don't want to do is have students in-person brick and mortar schools for a few days and then swap to the virtual school and swap back and forth. That's not good for instruction. It's not good for the student. So
it's not even good on the parents trying to keep up with all that.
No, it's not. And you've got two very different approaches to instruction. So going between the two is really, that's just it's a transition. And so it takes some work. But we're set up if we do have families that need that option. That's the option that we can offer, is that virtual academy. And I want to say in the state of Tennessee, there have been a lot of districts that have added a virtual school in response to the fact the state board has eliminated that virtual option in our brick and mortar schools.
Awesome. Well, talking about facelifts, I've driven by there and also seen another big lift started out there. And looks like they're trying to put some plastic grass down out there.
I'm hoping we're going to get to that plastic grass pretty soon. So far, it's been dirt and rock. So far, that's all we've done.
Well, I'm a dirt and rock.
That's right.
I'm glad you brought that up, Tater, because this is something that I think that a lot of people in our community have questions about, looking for answers, and that's one of the things that the Mike Weatherford Show is trying to do, is trying to find the answers to these questions and rumors and try to get to the truth.
Right.
So, with the plastic grass, what is the benefits?
Before you answer that,
Okay.
I would like to know where the idea came, the original idea to put artificial turf out.
Okay.
Who had that idea, or who had that concept, or where?
Okay, so as you know, there are quite a few districts in the state of Tennessee that have gone to artificial turf. So it's kind of been a process. I want to say I spoke when we were doing the research around this. I spoke to a gentleman that used to be the superintendent out in East Tennessee, and of course they had done it 14 years ago. So it's not a new concept. Of course, you also know Murray State has, artificial turf. Bethel has artificial turf. You look, UT Martin has artificial turf. So it's not really a new thing necessarily.
Oh, no, it's not new at all.
But I would say, now this is my understanding, so please forgive me if I'm not right on this, okay? Because I'm not going to give you I can't guarantee it, but I'm pretty sure that this direction, this need was started by Coach Count Sr. So he had interest in improving our program, and really this was kind of a vision that he and his team had early on, and so it's been talked about, for a long time, and it's been in the process for a long time, and so this is obviously it's a significant improvement to the facility, and I say whether or not you agree that the improvement was needed or whether you like the look of it, it definitely is an investment, and it's definitely an investment in the program. And so it's been around for a while. It's been a process for a while.
Why do you think that they wanted it to go to turf? Is it going to give the coaches more time with the players because of the maintenance part of it, as far as being natural?
Sure. So I think there's multiple things. So one is a lot of the games our kids will play on. They play on turf. Turf plays differently than natural grass does. There's a different interaction. There's a different feel. And so, you think about it.
Worried about injury.
Well, that's a great question, but when you think about the number of districts that have gone to it and the statistics out there, school systems would not be able to get insured. So Tennessee Risk Management would drop me if I was doing something unsafe for our kids. And so that's the thing, is there's layers and layers in school systems of what we can do, what we can't do. If we were making a decision that was not going to be a safety concern, then our insurance company wouldn't support us. We wouldn't be able to go that route.
You can find statistics, and I've studied this situation a bunch, because it's no secret that you were on one side of the fence and I was on the other side of the fence, and we drew the biggest crowd ever at the Henry County Courthouse, which was pretty cool. And so, I studied a little bit on the injury rate, and you could find statistics from 10% increase to 125% increase.
Yes.
So I just took an average of 60. And whether, like I said, that's one company doing this survey, one company doing this. So you really don't know. I do know that a lot of the professional teams are taking it up now because of injuries. So I wonder, is there certain kind of conditioning that you have to change?
You mean for like the athletics, preparing them for the turf?
For the turf? Or?
So, those are things that like our athletic trainers would be more involved in than I would be. So for me to tell you, here's what you have to do to make sure, I don't think that would be my area of expertise. What I can tell you though is you take a lot of your universities, a lot of your professional teams actually still are going with turf. So there are some, people change their mind,
right?
For different reasons and things. So I think it's really a matter right now of preference and competition. And so when we think about it, frankly, it's going to be gorgeous. And you asked what are the benefits. So we have had significant drainage issues on that field, significant. So we had a lot of the drainage, and this, I am not a technical civil engineer, don't even profess to be, by the way, but we had quite a bit of drainage issues under there. So we actually had drains that were washing out around them, where the drain wouldn't hold the flow of water. So if you've ever been to a football game, you know how that water up there by the concession stand poured onto the field. field. So our kids were having to bring out, special things for them to stand on. And there was just an overall concern with, we were going to have to invest in that field anyway. That field had to have some updates, had to have some upgrades, because, we see it in November, we know what it looks like, and hopefully, we'll play right on into the season, even past there. But, there was some aesthetics, but that's really not the upkeep, the maintenance, those type things definitely will take some time off of our coaches. Also some expense. So when you start talking about watering and overseeding and all that stuff, there's definitely some expense that you spend there. But I will tell you, so if you've looked at, Milan has recently, their community made an investment in their field and they installed artificial turf. It looks amazing. Of course, Huntington has it, Dyersburg, I believe.
I'm not really worried about the looks. I'm more worried about the injury. And also, if the coaches wanted it, did you get any feedback from the students, the ones that actually play on it?
Sure.
I've played on turf and I didn't like it, but that was way back then.
It's come a long way, Billy. So what you're,
I will say that it's a lot different.
What you're putting down now is a big difference from what you're putting on back, 20 years ago even. So it has a lot of upgrade. Now you have to think about, so our coaches are our professionals. Our coaches are the ones that have experience with playing on different fields and interacting with different fields. And so it's kind of like asking a teacher about flexible seating. The teacher needs to make that decision and that recommendation around flexible seating and then use it to facilitate his or her classroom. So that's the way our coaches are. Our coaches are our professionals, and our coaches have said this will improve our program.
What I'm worried about is the coaches worried about taking care of the boosters, because the look, that's great.
Sure.
But I'm more worried about, like I said again, the injuries and how the players feel about it. What's it going to cost us on the back end?
Yeah.
I need to, kind of wonder about the pros and cons of the field instead of just the looks.
So I gotta
and the drainage. Like, I can kind of understand that.
So I've got to disagree with you about what our coaches are worried about. Okay. And I'm going to tell you, so I can say this across the board with my employees. They are dedicated to kids, and they're going to want to do what it takes to do what our children need. And I feel that way about my coaches too.
I can say about Coach Counts, because I know him, that you can't ask for a better role model for our kids.
No.
I think that he goes above and beyond what needs to be done.
He does.
And his dad was that way.
Yes. Well, and his team. So he, definitely is dedicated to those kids. I'm just, and his priority.
Back you up on
There's no doubt about that whatsoever.
When we were having discussions about, the business aspect of it, and that's where my disagreement in it was just the business aspect. Is this plastic grass? The expense of that, is it that much more beneficial than what the natural grass is? And Coach Counts called me. Because Coach Counts, I've known him all his life. He used to work for me, actually.
Okay.
And we had a lovely discussion about it. And he was, at first when we talked, he was a little upset that, that I was against it or something. And I explained to him, it's not about, I'm not against you, and I'm not against what you're doing. And I know that he is 125% behind them kids and wants what's best for them. But my thing was actually just the raw cost of it, which how much was the bid to get it done when it turned out? I know what the thing at the courthouse was 800 and something. Y'all was going to transfer the money,
right.
But how much did the actual cost of it, has it?
So we're really not finished. We've got quite a bit of work to do, and our target date is the 20th of August, by the way. So we really want to play.
And I hope it's ready.
I do too, because it is going to be amazing. We won't have water standing. It will be even the concrete in front of the home bleachers, even the concrete going up to the concession stand. All of that is so much so much safer, more solid, less cracks, less opportunity for trips and things like that. So when as far, and I don't have my numbers in front of me, so Tater, so I can't give you a number offhand because I'll be wrong, and I don't want to do that. But you've got multiple things that go on. So when you talk about the turf itself, there's two pieces. I say pieces, that's not right. There's two.
Several pieces.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of pieces, actually. If you count all that rock that's been put out there's a lot of pieces. But when you talk about, there's kind of two phases. How's that? You have the base, and then you have the turf, the carpet itself, and those two. Well, we had a lot of stuff to do before that to address our drainage. So we really needed the water to flow properly, not erode the track, because that's something we've not really talked about is for the first time, our kids are going to have a real track surface. So our track kids will have a place and not have to go to Huntington to practice track, which you guys think about it. Okay, you really want your kids to practice on what they're going to perform on, because that gets you less injury because they're accustomed to wearing their track spikes and things like that. So, and they're accustomed to the feel, because when you went on different surfaces, the way you interact is different. So we really wanted to improve that, and that took significant work. So you've really got your base, you've got your grass, your carpet that goes on top, but you also had all the underwork, all the drainage, and then you had all the work around it, and then you had all the track, and you have all the asphalt that has to be done, and then you have the track surface. So, and I'm probably leaving something out right there. Now, the neat thing about it is for about 12 years, we shouldn't have to spend a penny on any kind of maintenance down there. So, and I guarantee you, Coach Counts will take care of that field, as will Dr. Webb and her team. So, 12 years, we're pretty solid on not having to spend money on that.
Where do the pennies come from?
Taxpayer investment. I mean, it's definitely, we have what is called a capital fund, and in that capital fund, that's used to improve facilities. Or if we have, heaven forbid, a tornado or something like that, and we have to rebuild.
Enough money in that fund to pay for it all?
Yeah, so we're going to have enough money in that fund to pay for it. So
because the rumor has it, there was a lot of undercutting stuff to do out there, which I know overruns a bid when you do that. So
there was some undercutting, but you're talking about a project that's kind of gone over a couple of different fiscal years, and so by the time we're finished. We'll have a legacy, there's no doubt. We'll have a project that this community can be proud of. But we definitely ran into some overages as far as the undercutting goes. I mean, we knew there was poor soil, and I'm not a civil engineer, so the terminology is not going to be the right terminology. But we ran into some just mucky mess under there. And then, of course, you take the rain that we've had. Has it rained every day since March? I'm pretty sure it's just about,
exactly how many days it's rained.
Well, I've told people, they're like, gosh, are we ever going to finish that project? And I'm like, well, we just really, and I know our farmers and our fields and all that need this rain, and we probably have the best corn crop that's been had in a long time. But as far as working turf and probably asphalt, it's, probably road beds and things like that, this rain's been hard to stay on schedule, and that hasn't helped any as well.
Let's address this rumor that we got.
Okay.
Now, the football folks like John Davison and all them, they was supposed to have enough money for the field, correct? And then they've come up short.
No, that's not my perspective, and I can't speak to what was before I came. They committed X amount of dollars to the project, and they have fulfilled that obligation. Now, if there were promises made before I was here, I'm not gonna speak to those.
Exactly. When did you come on board for the field?
When
did this come under you?
I came on 2 years ago, around the 1st of July. I think it was July the 7th. So this is actually my 3rd year to be here. So we're talking about a project that had been discussed for a long time. Now, we definitely were in need to make some improvements, and those needed to be improved, because when you talk about safety.
I know that we had stuff for the field that needed to be addressed. I mean, anybody that went out to the football game
100%
could figure that out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But the only thing that I'm worried about is like for example, like Milam, their taxpayers, the citizens of Milam now, then don't they have to
I can tell
ante
you how
up to that?
because I did some investigating on my own
There
about
you
how
go.
the other communities did. Milan's, and I was wrong after I talked to him, I was wrong on what my thinking was, and I probably even spoke wrong about it. So to clear the air right here, Milan's was funded by property tax.
Okay.
They increased the property tax for a certain amount of time till it was paid for.
They did a sunset tax or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, and then and he told me that he thinks this year was the last year of it.
Okay.
Now, I didn't get into the maintenance part, but I had thought that private individuals had funded that field, but it didn't. The taxpayers did.
Right.
The one in Huntington, they had the same issues we did, and the school board was going to have to pay something, or the taxpayers were, to get it redone, period, whether it be grass or the plastic grass.
I knew it was coming.
So what they did, they went ahead and gave that amount of money to the project, and then they raised the rest of the money from the private sector. And some of them like gave large amount, like $50,000 and stuff. So they put their logos or their business names on the side of the field.
Yep.
Which, in all honesty, that sort of thing makes a lot more sense to me from a business standpoint. Because, and here was my argument the whole time, even when I said anything. And had I been paying attention a lot sooner, I might have argued with you a whole lot more over it, and you know that. But the thing was, for what our local grass guy said he could come in there and redo it for and then maintain it a year, that would keep the field maintained for like 35 years for what the cost of this one field's.
Yeah, that's something I was kind of hoping that with what he did, he could use some of the student body and teach them a trade, like you said, and go further with
I
that.
will say this, what Coach Marsh, and he used to coach here also, and he's a good dude, and me and his wife grew up together like 2 doors down, and so, you know, it was good to get to talk to him. But he did say that theirs was a multiple use facility.
Yes.
And so far, we've only talked about football playing on ours.
No, we talked about track.
Yeah, track.
And we also have built a facility with lines for soccer. So that's been a promise that we've had the whole time. And then don't forget band. So right now, our band works on kind of over there next to the band building. They'll work on the asphalt. So we have a multi-use facility, and that's part of what we committed to the community. Not to mention, Tater, as we think about this, one thing that we want to be able to do is open it up. So maybe if we have some rec leagues or some things like that want to come on the turf and play. Now, I need to get it built, so don't misunderstand. I got to get it done first so that we can play our games on there. But we want this is a community investment. It's a community investment. Now,
I like that
It does. Well, and that's what we've said all along. This can't be just a single sport. When this community invests like this, we need it to benefit multiple programs. And so it will benefit multiple programs. We'll be able to host band competitions. I'm super excited about that because that's been something, there's a lot of traffic on a field when you have band competitions. A lot of movement, a lot of equipment, and those type things. So to really not worry about if it's muddy and we're wrecking the field and things like that, we don't have to worry about that because, it can rain 5 minutes before we get on there and they can play. Now, I want to say something too about our local grass guy. I'm going to tell you, you cannot ask for a better partner.
You're exactly right.
Absolutely. And I won't mention names because I'm not, but I'm going to tell you what. We have some partners, and them being one of them, that will move mountains for the school system that have been dedicated. And so this is definitely not about a natural versus artificial. This is about moving a program forward. And here's what our professionals say will move our program forward. And that's what we did. And so I'm really looking forward to that first game that we get to play there, and we get to, whether it's soccer, whether it's track, hopefully it'll be football because that's the season we're in now. I'm looking forward to that.
So have you got like any kind of number maybe close where you could give me something on one of those X's about maybe how much it's going to?
Okay, I can tell you approximately, and again, this is approximately, okay? I want to say that the base of the turf and the carpet itself were around $670,000, $650,000. $150,000. The drainage, I don't remember all of the drainage and the fencing and, all of that stuff. But the turf, when we talk about installing turf, you got your base and you got your carpet, and that's about the cost of that. So give or take some, but that's around the number. Now, the neat thing about that is, again, we don't touch it for 12 years, and then we go in and the base doesn't have to be addressed. What you have to address is the carpet on top again. So 12 years, some districts get longer, some districts get less. We're going to take care of this. This is a legacy.
Questions for you on.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tater.
Oh, I was going to say, our local grass guy is probably by the end of the week going to be down there putting new grass on the Titans field because Garth had jacked it up real bad.
Well, I'm hoping our local grass guy is going to be putting some grass around the field for us as well.
Actually, he is. I spoke with him this morning.
So we're kind of excited about that because that's, and that's outside the project. That's just making the facility look like what it needs to be and making it safe for people.
So what happens when you're dealing with taxpayer money or tax dollars and you run up there and you do have this big undercut thing?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do then? I mean, do you just say, hey, we need $350,000 more to cut this out, or we need...
So that's a great question. So anything over $10,000, we have to bid as a school system. So there's a very high level of transparency. So everything we do has to be bid that way. Our bids go to our school board. So they actually are on our school board agenda. So the board will see any bids we have for items that are over $10,000. But the way it works is we have funds that we use as a school system. Every year we submit a budget. We have certain amounts for capital. We have certain amounts for teacher pay. We have certain amount for staff pay and different funds, federal monies and all that good stuff that go in there. And we present that budget to the county commission. The board approves it first based upon the revenue that we have and the expenses that we have. And then once our board looks at it, makes the revisions that they feel is needed and provides some input around there, then we take that to the budget committee, and then the budget committee will make a recommendation to the commission or not make a recommendation. So that's our full budget. That's the whole thing. Now, anytime we have a revision to our budget or a request to move funds, we have the ability within a certain fund to be able to do that. But anytime it comes from outside the fund, like if it comes from our reserves or something like that, which has different names, then those all have to go through our board, and then it has to go through the budget committee, and then it goes to the county commission. So all of those things, there's a pretty specific process right there that goes in.
I got two questions I want to ask.
Okay.
All right. So the maintenance that we used to spend on the field,
right?
The X amount of dollars.
Yes.
That X amount, what are we doing with that? That's going towards the field, or what are we doing with that?
That's a great question. So when you think about the amount that we spent down there, of course, you've also got some time, remember, too, because our coaches and our maintenance crew did a lot of work down there. So what happens is we have to save for our replacement of the turf. So the replacement of the carpet is about the cost of the carpet again. So you're looking at in about 12 years, we'll have to put new carpet on there. So that money, that's part of what the booster has committed to help with, and that's part of what we've committed to use our savings for. So that when this comes around, we'll be able to replace that carpet, not ask for a tax increase or anything like that to do that.
Okay.
It's a good question.
You said community investment.
Yeah.
Okay, so why couldn't we get local people to do this? Just we don't have anybody around here that's qualified to do the job.
Well, we've had a lot of local involvement, actually. So Norwood Construction has been integral in doing the dirt work and all that. So that's a local guy that we have used. But again, we have to go through the bid process. So I can't just say I like Tater Hayes. I'm gonna get him to do some dirt work.
I just want the community, that's a good question, because that's one of the things that they're addressing.
So we had Norwood Construction did a lot of the work, and then we also, I know Delta has been on site. I think E&W, I believe, has done some lighting and some work for us on the wiring and stuff like that. Now, I don't necessarily deal with contractors, in that.
I want you to be able to answer the questions for our viewers, because they're so concerned we didn't get local people.
Yeah. Now, our challenge is you really don't have necessarily turf installers. That's from the manufacturer, and like AstroTurf is who's doing ours, and they have installers for the carpet. So we really can't. Now, I'm hoping that we're going to have some local folks bid on our fencing when that bid comes out. So I hope that we'll be able to utilize it. But now, obviously we'll go through the bid process and award that. Because at the same time, we definitely want to keep those dollars local, but we also want to make the best investment we can.
Right, I
and
totally
not
understand
waste
that.
money.
Then you got people that are talking about like, the Tennessee Titans, they're NFL, and their field is all natural. Why do we have to do this?
Yes, that's
So
right. Their
I'm
field
just
is
trying
gorgeous.
to address some of the questions that our viewers are wanting answered.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you, I don't like plastic grass, but I'm still going to come watch them play football.
Me too.
I like that. Well, I'm going to tell you
Go
what.
Big Red.
There you go. What I had hoped to be able to do this summer, because this is a project that was supposed to be about a 3-month project, and we're on about 9 months now, by the way, which is quite a sore topic for me and everybody involved.
I know you probably like me. When are you going to get the road done?
Oh, listen.
But you know what? I just thought of this. You can give them the same answer I do. When somebody asks me, when is the road going to be done? I said, when you see the stripe truck come through. So you can when somebody asks you, when is the field going to be done? You're going to say, when the stripe truck comes through.
When they start playing.
We can kind of, answer both questions the same way.
That's
so that's
right,
pretty cool.
That's right. But I am excited. I'm looking forward to the project being completed. And
So whose idea was it to put the on-film camera as they're building this?
that actually was not a dialogue with me. So I think they started that and then took it down, and that. I can't tell you where that originated, but I can tell you from a time lapse. Well, I'll just tell you, I watched it a few days, and I could watch paint dry, and it would be more exciting than some of that movement of dirt. So I don't know who came up with that idea. I couldn't tell you, Billy.
I was just kind of wondering. I thought.
Yeah. But it wasn't up for very long.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Why do you even?
Yeah, but who could have the data to support that? Because it's been going on for 9 months. Holy smokes, right? Like that would be.
You know what? I'll tell you what. You've enlightened us on a lot of different subjects today, and you even stood here and listened to my plastic crash questions. And we're probably getting close to short on time. So what I would like, myself would like, is just what are some of your goals for the Henry County school system moving forward from here?
I love it. Thank you for asking me that, because as much time as I can spend talking about turf, that's not my focus. My focus is I want people to look at Henry County school system, Tater, and go, man, I want to move to Henry County just to take my kids to that system. So when I hire a new employee, we talk about our excellence focus. When we hire people, we want them to know that that's what Henry County is about, is excellence. And so let me give you in a nutshell real quickly. We have a couple of focal points this year, and these are definitely as a result of COVID and the impact of COVID. And one is we need every child to make over a year's growth. We need this year to be amazing. We need our kids to grow and thrive. We need it to be the best year ever. We need that for our kids, we need it for our families, and we need it for our teachers and our staff members. The other thing, and this is kind of it's near and dear to my heart, Billy, and you kind of mentioned before about belonging and being in organizations and things. We've talked about, we know there are kids that go throughout the school day and don't talk to anybody. They may not have a loving, caring adult at home. They may not have a supportive environment. Some of our kids go home and they have wraparound supports everywhere, and some of them don't. So one thing that we've talked about is making sure that every child has somebody in the school system, some loving, caring adult that will ask them, how was your day? Have you had, how was lunch today? How was your chemistry test yesterday? Or how'd you do at your ball game last night? Or, are you trying out for volleyball? Because tryouts are coming up. We want every kid that comes through our system, every student that comes through, to belong, to have pride in Henry County school system, to belong to their school community, to belong to our system, and we want them to grow, because that's our business right there. And I'll tell you, a lot of these things, sports and academics, not academics, but our sports and our extracurricular programs, it's all about growing a kid, growing a child. That's it.
When you say about a kid belonging, I can relate to that, because I know what they feel like when they don't.
Absolutely. We all can relate, and we've all seen students that break our hearts, and we want them to belong. We want them to have a group, to have a loving, caring adult, and that's what we have in Henry County School System. We have outstanding faculty and staff members, outstanding coaches, outstanding. Just our people are amazing, and they want our kids to be successful, and this is what it's going to take. So every child over a year's growth, and every child have a loving, caring adult. That's what we're working for.
I got one other question too, because we be in Henry County, named after Patrick Henry, one of the founding fathers. Give me liberty or give me death.
That's right.
What have you done for the military? Are you pushing any of that? Because it's not just about college. It's just not about TCAP.
Absolutely. So I'm going to tell you, we had the privilege of hosting a couple of extra graduation ceremonies the past couple of years, where we had students who were signing up and they were actually going to basic before the school year ended. So we had private ceremonies for those kids so that they were able to graduate and they were able to have that same experience and go on and serve our country. So just doing what we need to, Billy, to make sure that those kids are honored and supported. And then obviously we encourage it. So there's no better service. There's no better sacrifice.
I think you can look back, and I think it's really amazing if you look at Henry County's student body, and I mean going way back. You've got guys, if you look at it, you got Delta Force, you got SEALs, you've
Rangers.
Rangers, you got Marine snipers.
Absolutely.
And then you turn around.
Went to school with a general.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
Got
right.
generals,
That's
and
right.
we've got FBI agents,
That's
we've
right.
got, DEAs, and there's probably a lot of people from Henry County that are doing things
better believe it.
that we don't even know about.
Yes.
So that's one of the things that I found out is that almost bred into us by being Henry County and us actually having a mascot that is a patriot.
That's right.
That's one of the things that I really like. So
yeah. Well, we're gonna do what we need to do to support our students who are going on to serve our country. There's no doubt about it. And when I think career, that's a career also. So when we say college and career ready, that is definitely an extremely honorable career that we want to continue to encourage.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because a lot of people look at the military as second-class citizens.
Yeah.
And so that bothers me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I want to say thank you
Oh.
for having the passion that you do have for the kids. And I want to say thank you for coming on, because you knew that I was going to have hard questions and some questions that we didn't agree on.
Sure.
And, the cool thing is we still don't agree on it.
That's right.
But we're going to be friends when we walk out the door, and that's a cool thing. And, we don't always have to disagree as a community.
That's right.
On things, or as students in the school system, or people on the school board.
Yeah.
But in the end, we want to promote our community and promote our schools and promote our kids and move forward in a positive direction.
Absolutely.
And as the director of schools, Henry County Schools, I see that you're doing that, and that's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do want to say my door's always open. So folks that come to the office and want to talk now, I might have to finish up something, but I want people to come and ask questions. I want them to call me and say, hey, what about this? So
There's
it's
some things
important.
that need to be addressed, because not everything is rosy and warm and loving. There's actually and it bothers me when I hear rumors of a teacher should be uplifting and edifying, and then almost being bullied because they can't read, or that they can't do anything. And that just amazes me when some people say things like that this teacher did this. And I'm not just saying Henry County,
Sure.
but like for example, Rudy, you know who Rudy is?
I do.
He actually had a teacher kind of bully him, and he said that was the moment that he just gave up.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I hope the teachers understand their role.
So I can honestly tell you, Billy, we have amazing people. Now, in every profession, there's always going to be somebody that there's a bad apple in every bunch. But I'm going to say right now, I can't tell you one in Henry County school system. We have people that care about kids. We have people that want them to be successful. And I stand behind our folks. And I would say, you know, if someone has a concern like that, you know, first off, there's always two sides to every story, by the way.
Exactly.
And sometimes there's three. But what I would say is if somebody has a concern, go to that teacher and talk to that teacher. Ask them what happened, and usually there's a little bit more insight into the situation. If they don't get resolution there, they can go to the principal. Talk to the principal. We have a process to resolve concerns. And if they don't get what they need from the principal, they can come to me and we can work through it. And that's the thing is we have a community that wants to work together. And so if we have a problem, we're going to work together and we're going to figure it out, Billy. And that's the kind of relationship we need to have where people will ask. If they have an issue, come and talk to me. Let me know. Because I'm an open book, and I told you guys when I came on the show, I want to be transparent. I don't have all the answers, and I certainly wish that we could have gotten the turf finished sooner. And for cheaper would be awesome. I'd love to have that as well. But unfortunately, seriously, you're not even kidding. But I want people to know that, we're working for our kids. We're working for our students, and that's our goal. That's our focus. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
That's exactly right.
That's right, because we're allowing y'all to help us raise our children. So, you have a very important role in it because, sad thing about it is life has got so busy. Now then you have both parents working, and they're either being raised by the school system, the daycare system, and it's whatever that they look up on well, I don't guess it's necessarily TV now, but whatever that they find on their devices. So
speaking of kids, I got a couple at home I need to go check on sometime.
That's about right.
Because they're probably not going to want to go to school in the morning because I'm going to keep them up later.
When I have them come to school, because it's important.
Oh, very important.
Thank you for joining us here on the Mike Weatherford Show. It's been very, very educational. And I want to thank everybody who joined in tonight and been paying attention and learning a lot of information about our school system. And I want to thank Tater here for joining me. Not many people would have done this, but we go back.
We go back a while. It's been fun.
So
I want to thank Dr. Watkins for coming on and entertaining.
You're not a medic. So.
Yeah.
I'm not. Appreciate you all having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you again, Tater. So y'all come back and join us again, because there's no telling who Mike is going to bring in here.
This portion of the Mike Weatherford Show was brought to you in part by 54 Fuel Mart, a great place to eat with friendly staff and some of the best gas prices in town. Stop in for a bite to eat and get treated like family. That's 54 Fuel Mart, 1213A West Wood Street in Paris.